Hey everybody, welcome to Action to Go Automotive. Today we had a special treat. So basically what we have here is a Tesla Cybertruck. I think it's angry at me. So yeah, I went to the Washington DC Auto Show. They were offering one-day test drives on these things, and basically we got to take this bad boy out for a spin. I drove it around a bunch last night. Got a feel for the vehicle. This is a 24-hour test drive, not through Tesla PR or anything. This was something they offered at the Washington DC Auto Show, and I just wanted to take advantage of it. You hear traffic behind me, do apologize for that. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about a couple things that attracted me to this vehicle in the first place. Politics aside, I know Tesla and the Cybertruck are like the modern Hummer H2. People love or hate this thing. And what I like about it is that it harks back to that 70s era futuristic design. Cars like the Lancia Stratos, the Lamborghini Countach that really embrace hard angles and a futuristic design. I think it is a brave design. I think it is a great design still. You know, I liked it when it came out. Modern sort of warthog thing. And I'm going to try and go back to front real quick just to cover the bases from, again, this short test drive I've had. And this is a brave new world for me. So, there. Pop the trunk here. I did use the trunk for a book bag, or the frunk, excuse me. The frunk here. I do want to say, I think one of the criticisms may be it's a bit shallow, you know, in terms of depth here. But, you know, you could do a grocery run in it if you wanted to. But, yeah, I expected a bit more space up front. But it is usable. I did use it. Go ahead and close that. Vehicle has worked fine. Oh, angry at me? You angry? What are we doing? Does that button not do that? There you go. Maybe that's a safety feature to keep people from chopping their fingers off. These angles are harsh. Other people talked about that when the vehicle first came out. Triangle headlights, interesting. Getting used to those. Let's pop in the interior real quick. So my driving impressions. The steering wheel. Some people have talked about the steering wheel being a bit weird to use. Wasn't a problem for me at all. You know, if it is a little awkward, it is a bit small, but I found myself just steering from the top or from the bottom. The side, it does sort of keep your hands naturally in this position, and that was interesting. Using these buttons was a learning curve. You use the buttons as a turn signal. So what I didn't realize was after you press it, it turns off for you once you've actually changed lanes. So I kept turning them back on. And let's see if I can give you a better angle of that. So that was an interesting experience. Driving down some back roads, the headlights would go from high beams to low beams for you, depending on if a car was coming or if it detected some sort of light. That was interesting. In here, you've got plenty of space, similar to a Ram or F-150 sort of deal. 2 cup holders there. Leaving your phone there was fine. Didn't have any problems leaving the phone here. In terms of, let's talk acceleration, this thing will lift up its skirt and run. I was very impressed by that. Brakes were very good. Steering is excellent. It does take getting used to. It does a lot of work for you in terms of adjusting itself and whatnot. It can do very tight turns. Was impressed by that. The handling was excellent at speed, and in terms of other things like audio, music, the audio is great. I will say this thing does feel heavy. It does. You do feel that weight. When you let off the gas, it does the regenerative braking for you. It does a heavy amount of braking for you, so you really don't need to use that brake pedal. That took some getting used to. For example, you know, I've had a Dodge Challenger Scat Pack that I've lived with, Dodge Challenger Hellcat. Very different experience, but I will say a pretty complete experience. Haven't driven too many other SUVs. In the back, you do have a good amount of room. This seat is set up for me. I'm a, 5'11", pretty wide guy, so to speak. And I was able to sit back here comfortably, was able to lie down there comfortably. I did have my daughter in here. She did not like the experience. That was interesting. But she's not a car person at all. And it was a bit late when I had the vehicle, so she was a bit upset. But as a truck, I haven't really used this thing as a truck, but there's plenty of space back here. I will say this is pretty cool. The tonneau cover, using this, I don't know what to say. It does work, and this is one of those things that sort of just, no thank you, Siri, come on, I'm putting in work. This thing does work, and I know that's a weird thing to say, but, sort of like parlor tricks that make this car fun. The lighting is good in the back at night. Let me do this real quick. I've got to get this thing back to them very soon. Here. I do like this angle of the vehicle. I was getting out of it last night, walking around it, and this just looks cool. This is a very cool angle on this vehicle. Popping down the gate, feels solid. I'm sure I could hop in there and hop out. This thing feels tough. The construction of it and whatnot has been talked about. How they build the vehicle is different than other trucks. I will say my favorite aspect of the vehicle that made it very easy to get in and out of DC, and I'm going to make a separate video with sit-down impressions and whatnot. Driving this thing in DC was actually, at first, because there's such a steep learning curve with these vehicles, if you're used to ICE vehicles, it was a bit hectic, right? In DC. We're talking rush hour DC. So real DC traffic, real bad DC traffic. And I got to tell you, these cameras, all of the cameras in the vehicle made it a great experience. Actually driving the vehicle, actually living the vehicle, going through stop and go traffic. This does come with full self-driving. I sort of hate that term, but that's another story. But it worked. It was stopping for people. It was stopping for stop signs. It was stopping for lights. It was changing lanes. I will say this stuff, this unprecedented snowcrete we've had for the past couple weeks, it did trip up the system a little bit. But besides that, this thing did very well. I only had to intercede once or twice. And you just tap the brake pedal, grab the steering wheel, and you have control. So it was a smooth experience. The lights, the headlights, great. Plenty of visibility, plenty of light getting thrown out at the road. I was on some back roads, and I had great visibility. I did compliment the handling already. Plenty of acceleration in this thing. You're able to move in it. And yeah, not too much else to say at this point. Again, I'll probably do another sit-down video where I go a little bit over maybe anything I forget or miss during this little segment. I just wanted to hop out of the vehicle, and I'm going to go through a drive-through, do a little bit more living in it. But yeah, I do have to say I am impressed overall by what we have here from Tesla. All right, we're doing some stuff in the Cybertruck in the DC iron snow that we have around here, the snowcrete. Whoop. Just having some fun. There we go. Whoa, whoa. Just using this thing as Elon Musk intended. Let's see here. It's making some noises. Makes lots of noises. There we go. Creaks and rattles. Hopefully those are normal. We're not doing anything too crazy. Just, doing some off-road-ish stuff, I guess. Just, you know, I mean, it ain't stopping. This isn't too crazy, by the way. I mean, it's hard snow. Ugh. Hopefully this thing's rated for that. I do have to say, this is a pretty, so far, it's interesting. It's an interesting experience. You know, it's a bit different than what I'm used to. And I have to admit, so far, I'm impressed. Is it for me? Do I want one? I don't know. I don't know. You know, this is literally the first night, just driving around, having a good time, doing some like dumb-ish things. Nothing crazy, nothing illegal, folks. Just literally driving over snow. Rule of thumb, if you're in snow, this is for anybody out there to remember. If the snow is above the middle of your tire, you cannot go over it. That's just a rule of thumb for anybody on the road and pretty much any type of vehicle. Getting an idea of the hometown here. Beautiful Wheaton, Maryland. But, yeah, just cruising around a bit, getting some in-car footage. Let's see if we can get my smiling face in there. What's up? Sorry, hope your screens aren't breaking. Just to give you an idea of what we've been going through in DC, look at this pile of snow. I actually wanted to go through there in this thing, but we cannot. Look at that huge pile of snow. And that stuff is basically like rock. All right, so we're doing a little bit of tooling around in the Cybertruck. And I've basically spent the night with this thing. And what can I say so far? Pretty easy car to live with. Pretty easy car to get around in, and we're gonna do a little bit of snow testing, just a little bit, nothing too crazy. But this is the type of snow we've seen in DC, and I'm tripping something up, but it just handled that with, I think, what we would call aplomb. This thing handled that snow with aplomb, and this is very hard, rocky snow. Nothing too crazy. We're not doing whistling diesel stuff in this thing. But, yeah, overall, I like it. I like it. Not perfect. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to give you some final thoughts after dropping off the Tesla Cybertruck. And overall, again, this was the all-wheel drive version. This was not the Cyber Beast. And I did spend about a solid day with it. I drove it through terrible Washington, D.C. traffic, drove it over some very mild snow, you know, a couple inches of snow, but it was pretty tough stuff, and experienced the handling, experienced the acceleration, drove it on the highway, drove it on some back roads, drove it all over the place, basically everywhere I can think of. Inside of 24 hours. I did experience charging it, and fun story, charging it was a bit of a pain at the Tesla supercharging station. I was about 32%, got it up to about 74% during like a 20-30 minute session or whatnot. Tried to play the video games in it, and overall, would I own one? Would I go out of my way to own one? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so unless I think it's like I heard this case for electric vehicles a long time ago, and I think that's still the case today. I think they're great second vehicles. If you have a family then you need multiple vehicles, sure, an electric really makes sense. If it's your only vehicle, if it's your sole vehicle, you know, I didn't have a week with it, I didn't have 2 weeks with it, and I'm sure the Model 3 and Model Y are very different experiences. I did sit in those and play with them a little bit. But there's something about the Cybertruck that really called to me in terms of if I had to choose one, which one would I choose? And I can say it wasn't a disappointing experience. It wasn't a painful experience, but it's so different. You know, there's no coasting anymore. At least that's what I was told. There may be a setting in there I was missing or whatnot. So the on-off with the acceleration, like as soon as you're off the acceleration, it starts braking. That wasn't a relaxing experience. some of the quirks of the turn signal thing I went over and some of the other stuff, getting used to everything being on one screen as opposed to having some stalks to hit or whatnot. You're sort of retraining yourself with a vehicle like this, and it is interesting, and I think it definitely falls into a lifestyle choice. And if it's a lifestyle you want to embrace, if it's a lifestyle you're prepared for, and you have your own charger at home, I think it does make a lot of sense. But as a one ring to rule them all, I think that hybrids and gas vehicles sort of offer more flexibility. At the end of the day, maybe they're more expensive to run, but I do have to say, I know this vehicle is really hated by some people for all sorts of reasons, but it's fine. It was fine. It was surprisingly agile in DC traffic. The steering does work. It takes some getting used to. It does surprise you, but overall, I wouldn't sneeze at one if it was given to me. I would say that. And I understand why someone would get a Cybertruck at this point. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Good experience. I'd want to get my hands on one for a week and really try it out to really see if the electric vehicle lifestyle is for me. But right now it doesn't make sense. But I can say, big vehicle, you can feel that weight. It is pretty useful, excuse me. There is another trunk in the back I didn't even look at, as opposed to the front up front. And yeah, if I had a family of four, I think it could make some sense. Or if it was a statement piece or something you wanted to use and you wanted an electric, pretty solid. It's a very solid vehicle. Very interesting vehicle at the end of the day. Will it hang around? Who knows? Elon Musk makes some pretty rapid-fire decisions, so we'll see how much longer it is for this world. But, this was my first real taste of driving and using an electric vehicle, and I can say I'm not unsatisfied by it. It was an interesting experience, and it's an interesting vehicle. We'll see where the truck market goes from here. I keep saying car, but, this is the Cybertruck. And yeah, feel free to sound off in the comments if you're an owner, if you've driven it yourself, if you hate it. Let me know why. Folks, thanks for joining us at Action A Go Go. Hopefully we'll get some more test drives in the future, and we'll go from there. Bye.